Responsible AI in Action with host Charles Demoff, CMO, Kama AI. And guest Sergio Sarmiento, Lead Digital Interactive Specialist, Transform Interactive.
Welcome to Responsible AI in Action. I'm your host, Charles Demoff, CMO of Kama.ai. Kama is the leader in responsible AI technology. And this is the Responsible AI in Action podcast or videocast series that we have going on. We are speaking with leaders in the AI industry about the latest developments, challenges, and solutions in today's AI systems. Now, we do this in about a 15 to 20-minute interview to give you exactly what you want about AI developments in the field that are happening today. So today's topic is all about bridging the AR, VR, and responsible AI connection. Let's say it that way for field training, which is a pretty important topic. Now, speaking with me today is Sergio Sarmiento, who is responsible for UX and UI design at Transform Interactive. Welcome, Sergio.
Hey, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Sergio, the first question that I've got for you right off the bat is, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Transform Interactive as well? What exactly does it do and how do we work together?
Yeah, so to start off with Transform Interactive, we've been around for over a decade now. And what we initially started to work with was we found a gap and we tried to reuse our clients' engineering data, like their CAD data, and repurpose it so they could be useful in other parts of their company in different departments. So whether it be for product visualizations or iterative design. And since then, we've evolved into specializing in interactive experiences, whether that's in the form of kiosks or virtual applications, augmented reality, and any of the XR applications there. But like at the core, we really care and we always want to improve our human-computer interactions. So we strive for all our applications, all our experiences to, one, not have a steep learning curve. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our end users, they don't require any tech skill to be able to use it. So it's all about that connection and that cohesiveness. And a little bit about me, really, here at Transform, I am the interaction designer. So I have a lot of roles within that. So one of the ones is, as you mentioned, I do the user experience and the user interface for all applications. I work with, when we're in the validation of the problem solution phase, I make sure that everything that we are solving is actually solving the problems we sought out to solve. And any 3D requirements that the application needs, whether it be 3D modeling, texturing, animations, avatar, anything that basically the end user sees, I have put my hands in it at one point or another.
That's amazing. I know that I was speaking with Josie, who's the director of marketing and sales there at Transform Interactive, and she was showing me some demos that you guys have on, kind of doing some of the virtual reality, how the person's kind of actually seeing the device and unbolting this, and you have to put this other thing on top and stuff. Very, very cool stuff, definitely. And I love the 3D real-time rendering that's happening in the background. So really cool stuff. That definitely interesting. Certainly worth for anybody who's watching this. Definitely go to Transform Interactive and take a look at the at some of the demos they have on their website. That's definitely interesting. And really cool that it's not just a game, that it's actually that you're using this to really train field workers, which is pretty interesting. So kind of on that topic, what challenges is it that you're actually kind of seeing in the industrial field technicians that they're facing for training, and how does immersive XR kind of solve these problems?
Yeah, so I think based on past projects that we've worked on in that field, I believe some of the common traits, common challenges that we find technicians, especially during training, are experiencing are well, one, the main one is usually how hands-on that work really is. The steepness of that learning curve, especially when we're dealing with different environments that sometimes are not controlled. So there's always variables that you don't account for. And the thirdly, that it's usually just how risk how high risk that work really is. So some of them, some of those environments are not actually safe to start with. So it's always those three things that we mainly see, and we are finding that when we are kind of doing this problem exploration, uh, the traditional training methods are just not really cutting it for technicians, whether it be paper manuals or watching videos, and especially when it comes to the high risk jobs, it's just not giving the technicians the training that they need and the confidence that they
Right.
need to go into these fields. So I believe when we talk about that, like immersive environments or really XR in general, it is really able to shift that learning process. So
Mhm.
we would no longer need to be reading a manual on how to repair a piece of equipment, but you would be actually able to work on that physical machinery and then have like an overlay or like a digital twin. So have like either a heads up display that's telling you not just, hey, this is what you have to change, but it's guiding you. It's telling you, okay, go to the right hand side and you see this panel, you can remove it, and then you're actually doing it real time with this assistant. And that right
Isn't
away,
that
like
interesting?
it starts to
Yeah.
like open up so many opportunities. And
Yeah.
as far as immersive environments themselves, like we are able
Yeah.
to simulate weather patterns, environmental factors that changes how the technician
Hmm.
approaches that job, approaches that specific example, and thus decreasing the risk overall of it. And I guess the last one that like I know that we've worked on before and just kind of comes to mind is the fact that some of these jobs, just like I mentioned earlier, they are just high risk in nature. And even though we can't fully recreate what they're feeling in that moment once they're in there, whether it be like an enclosed space or something similar, what we can do is equip them with that training and a simulation environment that better prepares them. So once they're in there, even though it's the feeling is different, they understand what they have to do and they feel a little bit more comfortable going into it. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, the training that we are aiming to do with immersive environments and XR in general. It's just to be more effective. It's more memorable, especially when it
Hmm.
comes to technical procedures or emergency scenarios.
That's pretty interesting. The kind of I think the things that kind of are interesting. One is that you brought up is high risk environment, which you're right. I mean, a lot of times they are working with stuff which can be explosive, or that if you don't do it right, it's out in the field someplace quite distantly, and it's quite costly to kind of get out there and have to go back and repair or
Exactly.
make adjustments and such. So that's pretty interesting. And then the other aspect is that you mentioned was, which I think is fascinating, would be learning on the job. That's one thing, but this is like really kind of pushing the paradigm of saying you're learning like when you need to, like
Exactly.
literally you could be at some site, you've never seen this equipment before. You kind of put on the VR glasses and you work through it, and you learn what you need to do to kind of repair or fix or maintain whatever it is that you're working on. And I kind of think that that's pretty good, because frankly, the best way to learn and to, well, first of all, is you're learning what you need to know, as opposed to just learning tons and tons of stuff, spending 50 hours on something and then only using like 2 hours of learning that are really applicable. So you're learning what you need to. And then frankly, the other aspect too is when you're learning that particular piece, which is really important right now, I think you're deeply learning it because you're learning it in virtual, and then you're actually applying that knowledge right then and there, which is that's amazing. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Like literally what you said, that's essentially kind of how it works. You're not getting an information overload right off the bat of like, here's
Yeah,
how to repair this whole machine from top to beginning to end. You're just kind of, once you need to learn specific components, you're not only learning it, but you're working as you do them. So then right away, like you just have that like that touch, that feeling, and that helps
yeah,
you retain that.
yeah. Interesting. That kind of makes me think about. So I guess my next question to you is, think about how does VR training for industrial field technicians, so the guys who are out in the field, um, how does that kind of work well with responsible AI? And actually, after you kind of said that these are critical systems and these are high risk scenarios, that immediately kind of says, yeah, okay, that's probably the answer. But anyway, I want to put it to you. How do you kind of see these those systems working well together. And again, responsible AI basically means you're getting accurate answers. It's not hallucinating and such.
Yeah. So in a high risk environment, I find that obviously the role of AI, it's not no longer just to be fast or smart. It is at the end of the day, it needs to be trustworthy. You need to be able to trust it to give you
Mm-hmm.
proper information, exactly how what you were saying. I find in most of our projects that we've incorporated AI, it is very much more like a guide. Its job is to assess, to test the performance, and to adapt within boundaries, to adapt to the user itself. So it acts more like an
Mm-hmm.
assistant. It is in
Mm-hmm.
our cases, it's never going to take charge of this project, because we always want to make sure that we retain that and we keep it at a close leash, but use everything that it has to offer to actually help the user itself like learn more and adapt to his or her learning. So I
Mm-hmm.
believe obviously that AI should be built on a validated procedure. And then
Right.
it learns from there. You don't kind of give it full reign to kind of go out and look for what it doesn't know. And I think that's a good one, is it's making sure that if it doesn't know something, that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
guess, it doesn't hallucinate. We don't want an AI in this scenarios that aims to please. And it's like, oh, I don't know this,
Mm-hmm.
but let me like give you something that I think is the right answer.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I don't think we're ever going to get to that 100% like accurate rate, but it's, how close can we get to that? And like just right off the bat, I can think of, experts that like really know anything about a piece of machinery, like having their knowledge being transferred to a trainee. That's kind of the goal. And how we're going to do
That's
that,
the
if
idea.
we're able to use an AI assistant, to it kind of works both ways. Not only the AI assistant that trains the trainee, but the expert is able to adapt and to change the how the AI assistant works. So then as the expert is using
Mm-hmm.
the AI to maybe work in a piece of equipment and use it to train, the AI assistant is also kind of understanding what the expert is doing and is able to reiterate and kind of transfer that knowledge down into the training end. To that point, I
Mm-hmm.
obviously should kind of mention that where at any point with this technology, we're not ever going to be looking at replacing experts, but it's about providing them with the tools and smart and accountable technologies they're able to reuse and down the line.
Yeah, I like the idea of actually being able to, you're almost extending your experts and you're extending those subject matter, yeah, the SMEs, the subject matter experts, because their knowledge is now accessible at a
Yeah.
moment's notice. I mean, yeah, you're right, because the at Kama, for example, certainly uses human in the loop. It uses those subject matter experts to double check or to just verify answers and stuff to say, yep,
Mm.
that's good. That's what I would do and stuff. So that's an interesting way to look at it. It's effectively kind of making your better use of the experts in your company, which is nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
because I mean, there is always like a handful of experts versus like how many trainees there is. So they're
Mhm.
always going to be running
For
around,
sure.
and they don't have enough time to actually transfer that knowledge. So if we're able to give them the tools to be able to do that without affecting their everyday work, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. That sounds right. So, next question for you, um, Sergio. What advice would you give to an enterprise looking at an XR or an AI training system? So, and specifically, normally companies are very concerned about the costs, the complexity. How do I govern this thing, et cetera? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely something that we've come through a couple of number of times throughout our projects in the past, and
Mhm.
I think the main thing I'm gonna kind of speak mostly right off the bat to like if they wanted to start approaching this maybe internally and then kind of look out externally. But I think the main thing
Mhm.
is finding that challenge, find that pain point, find that ideally quantifiable issue that you seem to be having, and explore the solutions that are coming up with XR or AI that you think are able to solve it, and try it out. Like see, like create like a prototype to just kind of see if that's something that works for that specific use case. The main important thing that I would suggest is to stay focused, stay on that goal. If you aim to kind
Mhm.
of fix a specific training module, for example, it's really easy to like go astray, especially with how much technology and how many different tools are coming out. Aim for a specific goal and kind of stay within that. In that note, I'd probably say, pick one training module, maybe something that you find hard to deliver traditionally, whether that's something but that has safety concerns or a high turnover when it comes to the training aspect of it, and prototype it and see kind of where that takes you. Is one step at a time. Usually, kind of gets you some feedback there. In terms of, I guess, a little bit more like externally, I would always suggest to work with a team, whether like leaders in the industry, whether it be like someone like Kamai or as a transformer, really anybody that you trust at the end of the day, and who understands the technology and the human side of things, because it's those two are very much connected, and we're only going to see that connection be a little bit stronger as the technology progresses. And eventually, once you kind of go through that test, that training, that example, the ROI is going to speak for itself when you see better performance and reduced training time, and it's just going to make sense, and you're going to want to slowly start to increase that training procedures.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. All right, well, thank you for that advice. Last question for you. So I want you to look maybe 2 to 3 years ahead and project and basically tell me, where do you see Transform Interactive, or rather, where does Transform Interactive really see the biggest growth opportunities in XR and the AI industry, those two together?
Yeah, projecting. I mean, well, 2 to 3 years, in my opinion, is a bit generous in terms of kind of how quick this technology is evolving.
Yeah,
Obviously, we like a year and a half ago, like we knew like we're gonna be kind of what we are today. But I think
yeah.
I would definitely say that XR and like well, really AI in general, it's quickly moving beyond training, and really getting into our daily workflows is becoming part of kind of what we do every day. I do see AI taking a big role in real-time support. So a very example, like the example that we talked about earlier of like this technician putting a headset on and being able to under and kind of walk through a machine that they've never walked on before. Same
Yeah.
idea goes, but you don't need to have, for example, you don't need to have any data on that machine. You just tell the AI, "Hey, I'm working on this machine that is maybe 5 years old. I've never seen it before," and the AI is able to understand what the machine is and gather correct data and kind of give you that walkthrough. So I think that's going to be a big role that I believe AI is going to take in the training. And we are seeing a lot of momentum still with digital twins and adaptive simulations. So that's obviously like a big one that I think we're going to be keep working on, and it's only going to keep improving and bettering the experiences of simulations, so we could better, put technicians in specific environments. And I obviously, and connectivity, like kind of what we're seeing, how we're getting also hardware wise. So like not only better connectivity, but lighter hardware means,
Yes.
the remote collaborations, like everything that we, at one point we didn't really have, like we were doing phone calls overseas, and it was just really hard to connect with someone. We're able to remotely collaborate, and that will be a lot seamless, I think, in like the two to
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, actually. And I could see that type of a world where, you might be the field technician, you're out in the field. Yes, you're using, kind of virtual reality technology or AR to basically say, okay, here's the device I've got, or here's the machine that I'm trying to fix in field. And, the AI is there, great, to give you, whatever you ask questions, it gives you answers, it shows you things when it's pretty close to 100% accurate, but doesn't speculate, which is very important. You don't want the thing hallucinating and just making up some nonsense, because this is critical stuff in the field. And if you run across a problem and it doesn't have the answer, to be able to connect also to that human to say, hey, look, this is more complex than anybody has ever seen before, or something. We really need to whatever, Bob, who's the expert at this area. Anyway, interesting, very
Yeah,
interesting new dynamics that are coming out. And you're
yeah.
absolutely right. I mean, the field is definitely progressing pretty quickly. Both the AR field, the VR field, and AI as well, of course.
Yeah, and
As
I
we
think
all know.
also like a lot of people are also a bit skeptical or like scared when it comes to remote places, and they're like, well,
Mhm.
we don't have internet out there, like we don't have
Right.
satellite or anything like that. A lot of these applications are getting to a point that you can just run them locally. You don't need to be connected to the internet. You would have everything that you need
Interesting.
inside either
Yeah.
a headset or and then you have everything at your disposal without requiring an internet connection, and that's a big one that we've seen in the past at least year and a half, that clients come in and they have technicians going to really remote places, and they're like, well, they have an iPad, but we can't really connect with them, so we only talk to them once
Yes.
they're back at the hotspot. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Anyway, excellent. Thank you very much for those for kind of speculating and even kind of just talking to us about where the world is in this technology today. So, Sergio, again, thanks for joining me on this discussion and this journey. Sergio, again, is responsible for UX and UI at Transform Interactive. And also for all the viewers, stay tuned as our next episode, where I'm going to be speaking with Michael Sasserman. Michael leads the customer success team at Kama.ai, and we are going to be discussing AI-driven customer success, getting it right the first time. So with that, again, thanks to all the viewers, and see you all next time on Responsible AI in Action.